Hey YouTube, this is RobloNuts1 here, and welcome back to the Doctor Who reviews. This will be the review for episode 1 of series 9, and I'm also going to cover some of the prologue stuff as well in this episode. So yeah, guys, this episode was really good. Definitely a very powerful opening than Series 8's 8 stuff. This episode was absolutely fascinating to watch. And I think it's gonna definitely have some very interesting moments for this, for the Doctor Who character. First off, just getting this out of the way, these reviews will contain a lot of spoilers. I'm not gonna beat that, I'm gonna be talking quite in depth about this, the stuff in this episode, and in the future episodes as well. I will always leave a spoiler tag, with all this stuff, but, if you haven't watched the episode, go watch the episode and then come back. And we can discuss in the comments. So, the story goes like this. In the prologue to this episode, the Doctor has to make a very important decision. And he goes to places in the prologue like Khan, and medieval England, and he basically has to make a very important decision, and this decision appears. What was that? Sorry guys. Yeah, this decision, has really made him ashamed of himself. And, we do see that play out throughout the episode, and the Doctor having to face up to that. Which and yeah. So that was the initial prologue stuff. In this episode, we find out what that decision that he made was. It turns out that at some point in the 11th, in Peter Capaldi's era, he met a child version of Davros. And basically Davros, whilst on Skaro, basically Skaro had this war, that was going on. And this child basically found himself in a hand mine, which is kind of like Skaro's version of landmines. And during these initial scenes, it's kind of implied that the world of Skaro had like this World War I-esque war, We see planes from like the World War One era being happening, and I initially believed that that's what this episode was going to be. It was going to be set in World War One. But it was very, very interesting because as the episode plays out, you realise, no, this is actually Skaro. Obviously, before the Daleks were created. And basically, Peter Capaldi finds himself on Skaro without really realising that it's Skaro. And meets Davros for the first meets Davros from Davros's perspective. Mindfuck. From Davros's perspective, the first time, and it's heavily implied that the Doctor created Davros, and I find that concept really, really fascinating. Because, as I will explain later, it's implied that the Doctor created his own villains. And I personally find that really, really fascinating. So we then transition into the future, and we basically have like this snake-esque creature searching for the Doctor. And this basically results in this snake-like creature meeting up with Missy and Clara, who basically meet up because Missy received a will and testimony of the Doctor, and in an effort to call out Clara, Missy holds the entire planet, on to ransom, basically. And I found that really, really, like, wow, this girl is definitely a psychopath. So yeah, those two go back into the medieval past that I mentioned earlier on, and basically they get captured by the snake creature and get taken to Skaro. If you can follow that train of thought, well done. If you can't, yeah. The whole thing is really, really is really, really involved and really, really wow, that is a lot of story to process. But it's actually, when you think about it, kind of light on story, and that leads into one of my key complaints about the episode. But in terms of exploring the story further, let's do that. I found the fact that the Doctor created Davros, who in turn created the Daleks, very, very fascinating. Like Peter Capaldi basically created his own villains without even realising that he had done it. Like, in the past, the Doctor had always just believed that the Daleks were just evil. But what he didn't really recognise was, no, he actually created the reason why the Daleks exist in the first place. The Doctor creating his own villains is very, very fascinating. And the fact that he created his villains throughout his own timeline is very, very fascinating. And this type of idea really, really seems like it's kind of like this Batman-esque type idea. Like, the Batman in his story is often implied that he creates his own villains without really meaning to. Whereas in this, and the Doctor is sort of doing the exact same thing. He's creating his own villains that have a major impact on not only his time stream, but the time streams of everyone around him. And it's because of the Doctor that Davros came to the conclusion that everyone around him must be a threat. That everything around him has to have this sense of destruction, and that the Dalek ideology, which is to basically destroy all life, actually stems from the fact that as a child, Davros was left to be killed. You'll have to excuse my lack of knowledge on Davros. I've never watched the previous seasons before the new series of Doctor Who. I never watched classic Doctor Who. I do intend to at some point, but I never watched classic Doctor Who, so I don't know the character of Davros and his ideology very, very well. But I found that I still fundamentally find it very, very fascinating that Davros came to his ideologies because of the Doctor. Missy was a great character in this episode. A complaint that I have with Missy is that it wasn't really made clear how she survived in the Death of Heaven episode. She sort of really appears out of nowhere with no explanation as to how she survived. But we definitely see her psychopathic tendencies really play out in this episode. And I find it great that she held the entire planet to ransom. Just to talk to Clara. Like, she just randomly appeared out of nowhere, and this resulted in the Doctor. Yeah, this resulted in Missy basically showing off her psychopathic tendencies, and yeah. I think it's interesting that she's taken on this more she's taken on this companion role. She's not just a straight up villain in this episode, but she makes comments about the fact that she used to or is a villain of the Doctor, and this leads her to, and she just makes like little comments about that, and I personally found her comments and her psychopathic personality quite amusing. I am a bit concerned that that's gonna get really, really less interesting. Only because Michelle Gomez is playing it in the same kind of loop. There's a bit more of an edge to her in this episode, but I think the personality of the character might get a bit dull to some people, and it might get old very, very quickly. Clara was great in this episode. I really liked her. A huge improvement from the Series 8 stuff. She definitely seemed like the Clara I grew to like in the Series 7. And sadly, it's Jenna Coleman's last season playing this character. So I'm definitely going to be interested to see where Moffat takes the character moving forward. So, all in all, there is one complaint that I have, and that is this episode appears to be borrowing a lot of elements from the Series 6 structure. And unfortunately, Moffat's kind of made a habit of saying, oh, the Doctor is going to die. And it's kind of getting a bit like, oh, really, this again? The Doctor's gonna die? Like, can we not move past that kind of storytelling and actually move into some more interesting aspects of the Doctor? Because I do think if Moffat keeps rehashing the same kind of story arcs over and over again, it might make the series itself quite stale. Anyway, this episode, this review has gone on way longer than it should have. Sorry I'm a bit scatty, but I really wanted to get very, very in depth with this episode, and yeah. So, all in all, guys, I'm Robinats1 here. Do stay tuned for more TV show reviews like Heroes Reborn, Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All coming to you guys over the course of the next few weeks. So do look forward to that. I'm Robinats1 here, and this is Robinats1. Welcome to new viewers and stuff, and yeah.